You are looking at your bank account. It is the end of the month. You scroll through the transaction history. The deposit line is there. By historical standards, it is a large number. If you compare this income to the national average or to what your parents earned at your age adjusted for inflation, the math says you are objectively successful. You have hit the targets. The inputs are correct. Then you look at the current balance. It is almost identical to the balance you saw 3 months ago. It is almost identical to the balance you saw 1 year ago. You switch tabs to look at net worth. The line is flat. It oscillates, but it does not climb. There is a ghost in the machine. You are doing everything right. You are working the hours. You are earning the salary. You are following the script. But the result that is supposed to happen isn't happening. When this happens, the immediate reflex is to assume the error is in the operator. You assume the leak is you. The credit card statement becomes the suspect. Food delivery, subscriptions, everything small enough to blame. You tell yourself, I make too much money to feel this insecure. So you optimize. You cut the discretionary spending. You budget down to the dollar. You treat your life like a failing business that needs to be turned around. And 6 months later, you look at the balance again. It has not changed. The gap between what you earn and what you keep is stubborn. You generate significant revenue, yet you possess almost no liquidity. This creates a specific type of confusion. It feels like a glitch in the simulation. If you are competent at complex things, managing teams, writing code, solving engineering problems, why would you suddenly be incompetent at basic arithmetic? Unless it's not an arithmetic problem. Maybe you aren't failing. Maybe the formula you are using has expired. Let's look at the friction. If the model you were taught was correct, this friction shouldn't exist. You are operating on a specific equation. High income equals high wealth. You believe that if you pour enough water into a bucket and you don't kick the bucket over, eventually you have a full bucket. Makes sense, right? That is basic physics. So if the water level isn't rising, you assume there is a hole. You assume you are spending it. But look at your life. You aren't buying Ferraris. You aren't lighting cigars with $100 bills. The bucket doesn't have a hole. So, if the water is pouring in at record speed, and it's not leaking out, but the level isn't rising, where is it going? Is it evaporating? Is the bucket expanding faster than the water can fill it? This is where the physics break. You are sensing that money coming in and wealth staying put are not the same thing anymore. We need to stop using the word money for both. We need to split the atom. We must distinguish between flow and stock. Flow is a rate. It is kinetic. Your salary is flow. It exists only while you are working. If you stop the action, the flow stops immediately. It has no permanence. It is energy in motion. Stock is a quantity. It is static. Equity is stock. Land is stock. A portfolio is stock. It exists independently of your daily labor. It has permanence. It is captured energy. For a brief window in history, 1945 to 1973, these two were mechanically linked. The pipe, labor, filled the reservoir, wealth. But look at your tank. You have a massive pipe. You have high pressure. And you have an empty tank. The definitions have drifted. You have been maximizing flow. But the game is played for stock. Why is the pipe disconnected? Why doesn't flow convert to stock anymore? We don't need to guess. We can look at the crime scene. We can pinpoint the exact moment the physics changed. We track 2 lines. Line 1, labor productivity, the efficiency. How much value you generate per hour. Driven by tech and automation, this line has gone vertical over the last 50 years. You are exponentially more efficient than previous generations. Line 2, real median hourly compensation. The reward. What you get paid for that hour, adjusted for inflation. From 1948 until 1973, these 2 lines were identical. They moved upward together. Symmetrical. Fair. You gave more. You got more. Then something happened. Look at the year 1973. The lines separate. The top line, productivity, keeps soaring. It rides the digital revolution. The value generated by labor explodes. The bottom line, compensation, flatlines. It detaches. It drifts sideways. This divergence is known as the decoupling. Stare at that gap. When you see it, your brain tries to find a polite excuse. You think, maybe it's technology. Maybe robots took the value. You think, maybe it's globalization. Maybe the value went overseas. That would be a comforting explanation. It would mean this is just the inevitable march of progress. But if that were true, the top line, productivity, and the bottom line, compensation, would both suffer. Or corporate profits would stay flat. But look at the data. Corporate profits didn't flatline. They went vertical. So the value didn't disappear into a robot. And it didn't vanish overseas. It relocated. And look at how it moved. Accidents are messy. Accidents fluctuate. They wobble up and down. This line didn't wobble. It separated at a precise angle. And it never corrected. It went to the other side of the equation. It went to stock. It went to corporate profits. It went to asset prices. It went to those who already owned the reservoir. The system shifted. Labor stopped being the partner in growth and became the fuel for it. The invisible wall you hit when you try to save money? That's the gap on the chart. You pour energy into the top line, but you are paid on the bottom line. We must face the consequence of that chart. If the surplus value isn't staying with you, if the harder you work, the more value flows away from you, then what is your job actually for? For 3 generations, we were told that labor is a wealth engine. We believed that a job was the foundation of a fortune. But look at the money moving through your account. It comes in on the 1st. It goes out by the 5th. It goes to landlords. It goes to banks. It goes to shareholders. Passes through you. You are not a destination for capital. You are a conduit. You are a high-pressure hose that moves liquidity from one asset holder to another, getting wet in the process, but holding nothing. So we must accept a demotion. In this architecture, labor is not a wealth engine. Labor is a liquidity engine. That is its only function. Your salary exists to keep the system running. It exists to service the debts and pay the rents that support the asset class. It allows you to participate in the economy as a consumer. It does not grant you ownership of it as a capitalist. You aren't bad with money. You are just using a liquidity tool, and you are expecting it to build a wall. Once you realize you are holding a liquidity tool, the failures of the past few years start to line up. You have been trying to solve a stock problem with flow strategies. Let's look at the paths you assumed were open, and why each one quietly closed while you were walking on it. Path 1, the save your way to wealth path. You thought high income was your advantage here. You thought discipline was the missing variable, that if you just tighten the margins, the gap would eventually close. But in a decoupled economy, asset prices are not pegged to wages. They are pegged to total liquidity. Your income flow grows step by step. Asset prices, stock, move in jumps. You save $20,000 in a year. That's real effort, real restraint. In that same year, the median home price appreciates by $40,000. Nothing went wrong. Nothing was wasted. The target simply moved. High income didn't fail you. It just let you watch the distance increase in higher resolution. You brought a linear tool into an exponential environment. This path doesn't lead forward anymore. Just loops. Path 2, the hustle harder path. When saving didn't work, you tried pressure. You thought, if the gap is widening, I'll widen the pipe. More hours. Higher responsibility. Better title. You thought high income was the destination. But flow has a ceiling. Stock does not. Your body has limits. Time has limits. And the price of stock adjusts to absorb flow. When a sector starts paying more, the cost of living in that sector rises with it. Rents follow salaries. Mortgages follow promotions. The treadmill speeds up exactly as fast as you do. And somewhere along the way, something subtle happens. High income stops feeling like momentum. It starts feeling like obligation. It is high enough to make you indispensable. High enough to justify the mortgage. High enough to require the lifestyle. But not high enough to make the system optional. You look at the monthly burn rate. The mortgage, the childcare, the taxes. It takes an enormous amount of energy just to remain where you are. Nothing is collapsing. Nothing is exploding. You are simply maintaining. You aren't building a fortune. You are keeping a very expensive engine running. And engines like that aren't designed to be turned off. The path doesn't end in escape. It just stops. So where does that leave you? We don't need labels. We don't need personality types or income brackets. We just need to look at the machine. Every system like this has 2 roles. There is the place where value sits, and there is the place where value is pressurized and moved. One side accumulates. The other side stays active. One side is quiet. The other side is loud. Look at where your days are spent. The meetings, the deadlines, the constant motion, the low-level anxiety that if you pause too long, the flow might stall. Look at the way your income behaves. It arrives on schedule. It leaves almost immediately. It keeps everything running but never settles. That pattern tells you where you are. You are not positioned where value compounds. You are positioned where value circulates. Your role is not ownership. Your role is throughput. You convert effort into liquidity, liquidity into payments, payments into stability for someone else. Nothing here is broken. Nothing here is malfunctioning. This is exactly how the system keeps itself alive. And this is why it feels the way it does. The pressure, the heat, the sense that stopping is not an option. That isn't failure. That is the sensation of being placed in the part of the machine that cannot go idle. You are not standing still because you are weak. You are standing still because this position is designed to stay in motion without accumulating. That's not a judgment. That's just the map. So we stop here. Not because there is nothing more to say, but because this is where the old map ends. We are not going to talk about investing. We are not going to talk about passive income. We are not going to talk about interest rates. Those are different tools. And tools only matter after you know what problem you are actually facing. Today was about something simpler. It was about closing a belief that no longer works. The belief that if you just earn more, the system will eventually reward you with stability. The belief that effort naturally hardens into security. The belief that a flat line means you did something wrong. It doesn't. The flat line is not a verdict. It's a measurement. And once you see what is being measured, the shame stops making sense. You weren't lazy. You weren't reckless. You weren't bad with money. You were operating a tool that was never meant to accumulate. You were measuring yourself by an outcome your position cannot produce. That's why pushing harder didn't help. That's why optimizing everything felt exhausting. That's why nothing ever quite settled. The wall you've been hitting isn't psychological. It isn't motivational. It isn't personal. It's structural. And now that you can see it, there's no need to keep arguing with it. You can stop treating the flat line as a personal failure. It isn't a failure. It's just where this map ends.